20,000 athletes, 26.2 miles. An unlikely place to begin a love story. But for two of these runners, Jamie and Lynn Parks, this monumental race will be the last step in a very different kind of marathon. One that has brought them through life's darkest hours to this day, this moment.
It's been quite a journey. If you wrote a book about it, I don't know that somebody would believe some of the stuff we've gone through.
Jamie and Lynn, stick your heads out.
Lynn and I met at a party in Oak Forest, Illinois, May the 18th, 1985. I was 23 years old. We were playing Uno, of all things. I actually had my camcorder there with me, and Lynn claims that I was cheating, looking at her cards, but I really wasn't. I was just admiring how well she played. She was in school. She was going to University of Illinois at Chicago, and that I was a letter carrier with the U.S. Postal Service. She was gorgeous. Back then, I thought, well, okay, she's hot. No chance for me. Next, you know. But then as I got to know her, I thought, she's hot, and she's nice, and, you know, we have all these things in common. I don't know if it was love at first sight, but it was pretty close. Every chance we could be together, we were together.
Will you quit putting that in my face?
We would go downtown.
Wave to the camera. Say hi, Mom.
And we went sightseeing and to the museums and things like that. We'd be going somewhere in the car or whatever. I'd think, she's with me. You know, how did this happen? You know.
Well, don't take a picture of me.
There was no chance that I was ever gonna let her go.
Still unable to believe it, even though I see it all around.
Lynn would come in and she'd say, "Aren't I the luckiest person in the world?" And I said, "You sure are," you know. She couldn't say enough about him, and she really loved him.
It's okay.
We met on May the 18th. July the 18th was when I asked her to marry me. Of course, I had the camera was hidden in my closet.
You didn't. You did. You didn't.
I, you know, pulled the ring out, and she goes, "You didn't. You did. You didn't."
Here, get a close-up look at it.
Oh, yeah, I'll focus up there. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You could look into the future and think, this is right now the best time of my life. Right now, it can't get any better. We had to figure out how we were gonna plan a wedding, and Lynn was still in school. She wanted to wait till after graduation. We ended up on October 10th, 1987, and that was the date that that we were going to get married, but didn't work out that way. We were supposed to go to a White Sox game. She was going to meet me at the health club, and I just sat in the parking lot waiting for her and waiting, and this was back before cell phones, so I had no way to get a hold of her, and it wasn't like her to ever be late. The way the car hit, and it just smashed right into the side of her head. They had to use the jaws of life. She was so smashed in there.
Phoenix 2514, 1010.
I think you're going the other way. No, now you're doing it well.
They just took me into this room, and two doctors came in. They told me that Lynn was hurt very bad. I said, "You mean that she could die?" And they said, "Yes. We don't think she'll make it through the afternoon."
It'll be a while. They've got to do several tests up here.
She had an injury to her head, which made her comatose. She had a fracture of the clavicle, fracture of multiple ribs. She also had fractures of the pelvis. The lungs been collapsed, and also an injury to the belly, which caused the liver to split.
They didn't know how long she had been without oxygen to her brain, so they didn't know the extent of the damage. But it was a brainstem injury, and both of her frontal lobes were injured.
At one point, one of the doctors told a nurse to get organ donation forms together.
And it sounded to us like we were going to be saying our last goodbyes.
It was just horrible. It was just to, think that this wonderful woman that I loved could be gone. It was a bad night, and the fact that she made it through that night was good, but things were hit and miss. And this went on for days and days and days, and I spent, I don't even know how many nights in that hospital, just sleeping on a couch or whatever,
I think you're going the other way. Going the other way? No, now you're...
We were taking shifts of going in, you could go in for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and at some point when nobody was in there, one of the nurses said that she opened her eyes. We're all like, what? Instantly you think, cool. Open her eyes. How you doing? She's conscious, but that was it. It was just she opened her eyes. There was nothing else going on.
I love you, Lynn.
We couldn't get any sort of a way to communicate with her, like, blink once for yes, twice for no, that kind. We tried all those things. So what's going to happen now? And doctors would come in and say, well, we don't know.
Can you wink at me? Can you wink one eye, Lynn?
She couldn't respond. She couldn't talk to me. I didn't know if she even knew I was there.
Can you wink just one eye?
There were people that thought I'd be better off just going on my way. And I thought, are you crazy? There's no way. God gave me this woman. This is the perfect woman for me. I'm not letting her go. If he takes her, his call, not mine.
But after you're all better, we can look back at this. I know what a look you're giving me.
You're not alone, so don't pretend to be. You're not a stone sinking in the sea. You're almost home. If only you could see you're not alone.
Today was supposed to be the day we were getting married. But we've had a little setback, and I had to postpone it because, you're not quite up to par right now. It's right now about 5 minutes to midnight. I made it through the day. Can't say that I made it through without shedding a few tears now and again, but there'll be another time. I know there will. I love you, Lynn.
First time she spoke was in the middle of the night. Her brother Mike was there. Mike would always get right in her face and tell her, say Mike, say Mike, So finally, she just got fed up with him, I think, and she said, Mike. And he's like, what did you say?
So the next morning, she could say 14 words.
This word is no. Ah, yeah, she did it.
Great.
Oh, I should have got
It was joy. We were crying because we were happy. It was just something Jamie was waiting for.
And I didn't know if she would remember who I was, and thank God she did.
Hi, beautiful. I'm not a rat fink.
Once she was able to talk, it made things a lot easier, obviously, but she wasn't able to move on her own, and she thought that she would be a burden to me. So she basically gave me a chance to get out of a relationship. It shocked me because I didn't expect to hear something like this. It's not that she wanted me to leave. She didn't want me to leave, but she was giving me the opportunity if I felt this was too much for me. And I said, no way. You know, we're in this for the long haul, and you know, however long it takes, we're doing this together. There was no way I was going to leave her.
And there's my beautiful fiance.
She still wanted to get married, but she wanted to walk down the aisle. So I said, okay, cool. Whenever you do that, then that's when we'll get married.
Every time you think you won't make it,
Very good.
and each time you're convinced that you can't take it, picture me in this light, think of me, you can find.
Very good, Lynn. Very good. Just keep doing what you're doing.
'Cause I've been chewed up and spit, I've been big, I've been hit, I've been burned, but I have learned that we survive, we get by, we take the hit, and we learn to fight.
There were times that I wondered if it would happen. She had to learn to walk again. So she worked on that just endlessly because, you know, that was her goal. She wanted to walk down the aisle, and none of us knew how long it would take. Watching her walk down the aisle, I mean, I wanted it to just go on forever.
Her father and her brother walked with her down the aisle, but she made the steps, and that took a lot of work. But she looked beautiful.
I saw them coming, then it's hard to see through tears. But I wasn't the only one. There was nobody in that church that could see straight.
I will
Take you, Jamie.
take you down
For my love.
for my papa
Yeah.
to happen to me
From this day forward.
from this day forward,
For better or worse.
for better for worse,
For richer or
for richer for far,
poor. In sickness and in health.
for in sickness and health.
Let's congratulate Jamie and Lynn, our new husband and
In a breath, I would trade tens of thousands of days for a single of these. This is my best day, yeah. This is my time of joy and laughter. This is as good as it ever gets. This is my happy ever after. This is my best day, yeah.
That was a day I didn't want to ever end. You know, just from start to finish, what a day that was.
This is our best day, yeah.
After the wedding, we settled down to married life at the home we bought just outside of Chicago. And we fell into a daily routine, I guess you could call it. Lynn would still put in her 3 to 4 hours of physical therapy exercises every day.
When's gonna finish your exercises?
and I would head out for work every morning. I am a letter carrier in Lansing, Illinois. It's about 9 miles worth of walking every day, and then it's up and down stairs. I actually counted the steps on my route one day, and there was over 1,500 stairs on my route, so it's a good workout. It's a good warm-up for my running, actually. I started running a few years before we got married. It's something I just did every day for a good workout. Got kind of serious about it and started doing a few races. Some 5Ks, 10Ks, I even did 2 marathons.
Go, Jamie!
But every time I went to a race, Lynn would have to wait at the finish line for me to come around, however long the race was. It was frustrating for her. We wanted to spend every moment together, so I had seen someone on TV push his son in a race in his wheelchair, and I thought, hey, we should try this. It's different running by yourself as opposed to running, pushing something. I wasn't very good at it, I didn't think. I was pretty slow.
Good morning, sun. Where have you been? I've waited all night to see you. Good morning, world. Out for a spin. There's nothing like moving fast to free you.
But we trained and you know, we got better, and then there was a 10K race. We hit the finish line and like, hey, this is cool. Let's try this again.
Congratulations.
People would come up to us after races and say, wow, I can't believe you did that.
When Jamie started running with Lynn, you know, I just thought he was insane. But I knew why. He needed to be with her as much as humanly possible, because there was that time where he thought he would never have that again.
She'll encourage me and, you know, say, come on, you can do it, you can do it. Or she'll chastise me if she thinks I'm slacking off.
Sometimes I can be real mean, like saying things like, move your butt, largesse. But I love racing with them.
When Lynn and I started doing these 5Ks and 10Ks together, it was like, okay, this is fun. Let's challenge ourselves. What's the next thing we can do? We thought, let's try a marathon. From the time that Lynn and I started running together, I've never had the inkling to ever want to race by myself again. I want to race with her. You know, she's my partner. We're a team, and we enjoy it.
Congratulations, runners. You've done it. You've done Chicago. Good run today.
Before Lynn got hurt, we had talked about having a family. I think we had like names picked out for a boy and a girl. After Lynn got hurt, doctors basically said that trying to carry a baby to term, who knows what it would do to her, to Lynn, and then the baby, you know. So they basically told us, you know, don't do that. It wasn't what I wanted to hear. I thought, well, if that's God's plan for us, then that's His plan. Lynn started getting kind of queasy and very tired all of a sudden. So we decided we would invest in a pregnancy test. Of course, I had to have the camera rolling just in case it turned out positive.
Hi there, child to be maybe ours that's going to watch this tape someday.
Your father crazy.
No, I'm not crazy. We are going to do this in just a minute. First off, since this is a life-changing moment with the two of us, I would like to kiss your mother.
And I would like to sprinkle your father it's positive.
And what does it say, Mom?
Oh,
What?
I thought
There was a lot of emotions going, I was like freaking.
It has a line through it.
And there was no doubt at all. The first test was positive.
I was ecstatic about it. I really kind of had an inkling I wanted a girl.
Had to make phone calls, call her mom, call my mom, call work, let them all know.
We never thought that we'd ever have a grandbaby from them because the doctor said there was no chance.
Okay, this is Lynn's shower.
There were a lot of reasons that we shouldn't have the baby. But I was happy. It was 6 days before Lynn's due date, and I was getting ready to go to work. And she started having some pain. And she said, Jamie, I think this is it. So we drive to the hospital. Doctor said, let's get in her. She couldn't get an epidural. She was too far along. And bada bing, bada boom, she was there.
This is Lynn having a baby.
I mean, obviously, I'd never been through this before, so I didn't know what to expect, so I had my camera.
You're doing wonderful, dear, wonderfully.
That was a look of love.
There's me. How you doing? Hi.
Okay, Lynn, next contraction, we're gonna push. Hold your breath and push. 6, 7, 8.
She did this without any drugs, and nobody could believe it.
Push. Good. Very good.
There we go.
She looks good. Hey! Look at that! There we go.
Okay.
Excellent. Beautiful. It's a girl.
Oh, we know that. How is she?
She's great. She's fine. Oh, she's a cutie. Hey, cutie.
What's her name?
Anna Lynn Marie. Look at those eyes.
You're so cute. She truly is a miracle.
Please don't travel far. Nothing's missing.
There she is. Hey, bright eyes.
Perfect as you are. Nothing's missing.
When Anna Lynn was a baby, Lynn always wanted to see how much she could do as far as taking care of her. She would bathe her. Of course, I had to do all the diaper changing, things like that. She never did that, but basically everything physically that she could do to try to take care of her daughter, she did.
I love being a mom. It's the most wonderful experience I've had. I didn't know that there could be so much joy in the world.
There you go, dear. Lunch is served.
Lynn and I, except through the pregnancy, obviously we were running and together, so we took that summer off. And then she had Anna Lynn. So we were like, well, how can we make this a 3-person team? How can we do this? So somebody had given Lynn one of those little papoose things or whatever that you can carry the baby around with.
Here we go. Anna Lynn's first dog. Yay! Anna Lynn, we're going to be watching this when you're like 18 and you're really, really fit.
Her first race that she did with her parents, she was 6 weeks old.
Okay, this is Anna Lynn's first race. Go! Go! Jamie, Anna Lynn! Go, Lynn! Jamie, move it out. Anna Lynn, make your mom and dad move it!
I think we finished like 3rd overall.
That's a trophy. Mom and Daddy were just holding her. She actually won it. Go!
We ended up doing 53 races with Anna Lynn.
Woo!
And we won, I think, 2 or 3 of them.
Woo!
We did 4,000 miles with her on Mom's lap. But then she got too big.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
And one day, I think I'd finished running, and she looked interested, so I said, you want to do this? So I turned it on really slow, and she got under and she starts running, and it looked really cute. And she ran outside with us a couple times just around the block.
Really fast, hurry, hurry, hurry.
So then she started doing it more and more.
How far are we gonna go?
1 mile.
1 mile. Go, Annalyn!
When I watch her run, I'm very proud of my daughter.
Great, Annalyn.
Annalyn is now 8 years old, so we run together as a family almost every day.
Running with my mom and dad, it's really a proud thing that I do with my parents.
Look at that, she's got a sprint at the end.
With Annalyn running on her own, Lynn and I continued to race as a team. She had given me permission to do one more marathon after I turned 40. I told Lynn, I said, let's do Boston. I'm not gonna have another chance, I'm getting old.
The Boston Marathon's been Jamie's dream for a long time.
The Boston Marathon is the pinnacle. I mean, it's the ultimate.
That's a huge deal for him. It's like opening your first Christmas present.
You run a marathon, you gotta dedicate yourself for months. And you gotta run 20 miles that don't count for anything. Go out and do speed work in the rain or get on the treadmill and run for 3.5 hours. And you can't just go to Boston. You gotta qualify to go to Boston.
There they are.
I'm 45, and I hadn't run a marathon with Lynn in almost 10 years. To qualify for Boston, we had to complete a marathon in under 3.5 hours.
Come on, Jamie!
I know a lot of able-bodied runners that would give everything they own to be able to run a marathon. And he's pushing her in that wheelchair. Now, this is not a racing wheelchair. This is a hospital wheelchair.
Go, Jane! Go, Lynn!
At the end, he seemed to be cramping pretty good, but who wouldn't be? 26 miles is a long way to run.
Come on, James, kick! Push it, Bob! Go, Ben!
We ran 3:15, so we qualified for Boston.
Good job, man. Nice job.
She's like, we're going to Boston, aren't we? I said, yep, we sure are.
The Boston Marathon is in April, which means we had to train for it all winter. And Chicago had a really nasty winter. So I had to do most of my training indoors on my treadmill. That meant running like 10 to 20 miles at a time on a treadmill. The pounding really started to take its toll on my ankles and knees. I'm here to get my left foot checked out because I've had some pain in my left foot that I'm concerned could possibly be a stress fracture.
Is it sore here? This guy? Anything?
That little way, yeah. Right there.
Okay.
Boston will be our last marathon because I'm not getting any younger and training is killing me.
Is this body at all a twist on this thing?
A little bit.
Could this be something ugly, some kind of a stress fracture?
Yeah.
What do I think it is? I think it's a tendonitis. You're going to do this regardless?
Yeah.
Right? So no matter what I find, you're going to probably run it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Luckily, the doctor told me I didn't have to give up Boston, but I would have to do some intensive physical therapy, and I didn't have a lot of time.
Step by step. Lead with your right, step up, and then down with your left.
Sometimes when I'm having a rough day or a rough training or whatever, and I just think about, in the midst of it, I think about what she's gone through and what she still goes through every day. She keeps working at it, and she'll do her exercises 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes, but she's tireless, and that's a huge inspiration to me.
When we started training for Boston, we just used Lynn's regular wheelchair.
Snow milk.
Out of the blue, a company in New York that makes prosthetics heard about Lynn and I, and they offered to build us a customized racing wheelchair. Pretty cool. So we flew to New York to test it at their factory.
The new wheelchair it's very interesting because it's 3 wheels, and I've never dealt with something like that.
Now, what do you think?
I didn't know what to expect, but I'm impressed. Roll's really, really sweet.
How's it feel? Comfortable?
Feels good.
Is it comfy? This new chair weighs only 36 pounds. It feels like about half of what her other chair is. I like it because it's got air-filled tires. It's certainly easier to push. The only thing I have to be concerned with now is getting a flat tire. We get out to Boston and get a flat tire at mile 12 or something, you know, we're up the creek. Well, where are we going tomorrow?
Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Why are we going there, though?
Because to do the Boston Marathon.
This is the big one. This is the big race. This is, you know, this is the be-all and end-all of marathons.
You gotta do your very best now.
I'll do the best I can. Well, that's all for now. See you in Boston.
Woo!
Today's the day before the marathon. We saw the finish line on Boylston Street. Seeing it pass under the wheels and knowing the next time it passes under our wheels, we're going to be finished was incredible.
Your chip, your bibs, your actual bib number, your party ticket, and your baggage claim.
Cool. I think the mood here in Boston is a little bit different than other races, other marathons we've done, just because it's so prestigious and it's, you know, it's the biggest of the big marathons.
It's more exhilarating.
Yeah. It's race day. This is the hardest I've trained for any marathon I've done. This is the culmination.
I love you guys.
See you in a little while.
Oh, God bless you both.
I want to be able to see him finish this thing. Because as parents, we could almost pop. It's that great for us.
Are you ready for this thing?
I'm ready.
As ready as I'm gonna be.
My mom and my dad are my true heroes and a big inspiration for when I get older. And they love each other a lot.
My country gave birth to the modern man when 2,500 years ago in 490 BC.
I am shaking. I am literally shaking. I don't know why. I don't understand. I told Lynn, I've never been like this at the start of a race. In my head, I don't feel nervous, but my body is not feeling the same way, apparently.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
At this point, you know, I've done everything I can do physically. It's in God's hands now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In any marathon you do, the one thing you have to watch out for is you don't want to start out too fast. If you start out too fast, even though you might feel great, 20 miles into the race, it's going to come back and bite you. And the one thing that complicates it a little bit at Boston is the first 5 miles are downhill. You really, really got to tell yourself, pull back. Just got to stay within myself, not push too hard too early. Triceps a little sore, but this is all the downhill. Well, you think, oh, that's pretty cool. We're going downhill. That's nice. But I'm trying to hold back on the chair, and it kills your arms. Then the course flattens out a little bit, so you try to get yourself in a rhythm. But even when you think the course is flattening out, there are a lot of rolling hills along the way. Hey, nobody told me there were hills out here. What did it?
Yeah, it's hard for Jamie. It's hard for Lynn too.
A little chilly for my darling wife.
And to just sit there and be the motivator and be the person that you know, is taking a lot of that shock.
I'm psyched. I don't want to go too fast, though.
Just after 12 miles, you could just hear this roar in the distance, and I knew that that was Wellesley College. The women of Wellesley have this tradition on Marathon Day of lining up on each side of the road and high-fiving the runners as they come by. They scream and cheer and clap, and it is so loud. I mean, you can't even hear yourself think when you're running through that gauntlet. It was so much fun slapping hands with all the women.
I didn't look at any of them, dear. None of them were cute. The very last hill in Newton is called Heartbreak Hill, and that's 20.5 miles into the race.
20 miles is pretty much the point in any marathon where you start hitting the wall, losing your energy, and you got to go up this huge hill.
I can't even imagine what goes through his mind coming up to a hill and knowing what he has to do to get over that hill. But that's Jamie and Lynn's life. They've always come up to hills, and they've always come up to obstacles, and they figure out how to get over them, and they get over them.
It's such a mental thing. You know, how long can you suffer? How long can you deal with the pain that you're going through? And it's just counting down the miles. You get to the last 6, and that's where it hurts. You know, it's just trying to get through it without stopping.
The hills is probably the most hardest thing for him because he's pushing a wheelchair and it might be heavy for him and then he might get a little behind.
The thing about Heartbreak Hill, I mean, it's brutal. I could barely keep the chair moving. I'm just looking at my feet going, you know, come on, Lord, let me keep my feet moving through this. I don't want to stop. It just keeps going and going and going. The last, 20 yards or so of Heartbreak Hill, I mean, you can see the top, it's coming, and everybody's cheering. And then all the people at the top are like, you made it. It was such an incredible feeling. My main focus now is our daughter and the fact that she was waiting for us.
It's almost Anna Lynn time. Well, I knew exactly where she was going to be, and when I saw the Citgo sign, so I knew the viaduct was coming up. As soon as we crossed under that viaduct, Anna Lynn was waiting. And my dad was standing next to her.
When her daddy came over and picked her up, it was almost too much. I'm about to boil over. It's just an emotional time, very emotional.
I love my daughter, I love my wife, I love when we're together. I thank God every day that we can be together as a family. That's another one of those things, I don't want it to end.
And here he comes down here, ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Parks.
Crossing the finish line, that's going to be the culmination of everything we've gone through, over these years.
We did it!
I love crossing the finish line.
It was a dream come true. I felt like totally awesome, and I loved it. I will always remember this forever.
Great job, girls. Great job!
Can you believe what a blessing just to be needed, just to be loved, moment to moment to moment.
I do this because I love my wife.
She's the hero, and she's the one that's gone through all of this. Without her, I'm just a mailman that runs.
We make our life from day to day. We make it up along the way. We make this life from friend to friend. And when we're lost, we find a way. We make our life from day to day. We find a way.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.